Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC quarterback, Cody Kessler. Cody, how are you doing today? It's week 9, and we got to preview Cal.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, obviously a little frustrating loss last week, but hey, the 24-hour rule, I've moved on. We will have some difficult conversations today. I'm fine with that. We'll talk about the offense, get a little bit into the defense as well. But overall, this is the preview episode, so I'm trying to stay more focused on Cal this week. Dion, and you did a great job of going over that Utah game. But I do have a little bit of thoughts after watching the film back. And again, it's never as bad as you think. It's never as good as you think. But it's always a little more difficult after a loss. Yep. But hey, college football, the best thing about it is we have another game this week, and we can get back on track as we head to Berkeley to take on the Golden Bears.
So like Cody mentioned, we got to get some brief thoughts on Utah. We also have to get into some news updates. Obviously, Lincoln Riley and his health is something that we need to dive into, so we'll give the latest there. Before we jump into it, just a couple reminders. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We also are doing video on the USC Athletics YouTube channel, so if you want to watch the show, that's how you can do it. And if you want to go above and beyond, you can leave a review on your podcasting app. It helps grow the show, and we greatly appreciate everyone who's done that so far. You can also like and subscribe on YouTube as well. If you ever want to get your voice heard, you can look out for a tweet or a question box on either Twitter or Instagram. Our socials are VictoryPodUSC. And then final reminder, our in-season schedule is Cody, you and I recording on Wednesdays for USC's afternoon practice, and then Dion Bailey and I record on Sundays and Mondays, trending towards Mondays, but it's one of those days, so just look out for an episode, a recap episode there. Alrighty, Cody, like I said, we got to jump into the news first. We got word from USC on Monday that Lincoln Riley was not feeling well, and then we got an official update on Tuesday. He's missed the last 2 consecutive practices due to illness. He's recovering at home for the time being per doctor's orders. Outside wide receivers coach Dennis Simmons has been elevated to acting head coach for the time being, and then USC has cleared with compliance to make offensive analyst Cliff Kingsbury a accountable coach. I'm putting air quotes just because in normal people speak, that just means he's been elevated to like an interim assistant coach for the time being, because offensive analysts can't coach on the field or do anything like that. So now he can do that. So all that has been cleared. I know I just ran through a lot of items there, Cody, but I just want to get your thoughts on this evolving situation.
Yeah, first and foremost, our thoughts are with Coach Riley and his family right now. We know how competitive he is and how badly he wants to be out there with this team. So obviously the doctor's telling him to stay home. He has to recover before he can get back to football activities. But outside of that, I just want to say real quick, and I'll be brief, you've got to remember that there are things that are bigger than football, right? There's things that are bigger than wins and losses in between those white lines. And obviously Coach Riley's health is one of those things, and something that, we want him to get better from as quick as he can. But it just frustrates me a little bit seeing some of the negativity on Twitter when we're talking about a man's health and something.
When the human aspect kind of gets lost. And you got to remember,
and he has a family and he has a wife and kids at home that are worried about him, and football is probably the last thing that they're thinking about right now. So just take that into a perspective, I guess, a little bit when you're out there wanting to bash someone when they're down. And again, I don't want to be too preachy out here and tell people how to think and act. But again, you got to remember at the end of the day, and the players as well, there's things that are bigger than football, and this is one of those moments. So again, our thoughts are with Coach Riley, and hopefully he can get back as soon as possible.
100%. What's interesting, though, Cody, is obviously Riley has invested so much in team culture and the Trojan standard. This is where that gets tested. It's kind of like almost a substitute teacher type of vibe where how are the players going to respond?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I kind of look back at my time, and obviously my situations were different. I hate that I have to make that plural, saying situations, when I had interim head coaches and I had it multiple times. But I look back at that, and you got to realize for Coach Simmons this week is he's been outside wide receiver coach. Obviously, he has a lot of input on this offense, but he's never been in that head coaching role at USC. So now he has 20,000 other things on his plate that he's not used to on a week-to-week basis. That means that the players have to step up huge this week. That's where the culture comes into place. Caleb Williams, Justin Dedich, Jonah Monheim, Marshawn Lloyd, and on the defensive side of the ball, Shane Lee, Eric Gentry, guys that are leaders, Kalen Bullock, on this defense and on this offense, on this team in general, have to step up huge this week so that Coach Simmons can take care of other things that he has to take care of, and you have to keep that culture going. So we know that we go out to practice, and that's what we did when we were here. When Ed Orgeron took over for Lane Kiffin, when Clay Helton took over for Steve Sarkisian, they had a bunch of different things they had to deal with as becoming head coaches that we knew as players, hey, we've got to be crisp at practice. We've got to make sure we're taking care of everything. Extra film study this week because it's something we're not used to and we're missing the head ball coach right now. We've got to pick up where we left off. We can't have a huge drop-off when Lincoln Riley's not here.
Yeah.
And again, this is all obviously hot topic, big news, but my main thing is just you got to remember sometimes there are things that are bigger than football, and this is one of those moments. So from everybody here at the Victory Pod, our thoughts are with Coach Riley, his family, and hopefully we can get him back as soon as possible, and we're going to miss him.
Agreed. Okay, I want to get your thoughts on the Utah game, but before we do, just want to give a special thanks to Audi. Performance is more exhilarating on a real road. Introducing the Audi Q5. Visit your SoCal Audi dealers, proud sponsors of the USC Trojans. And at Ralph's, everyone wins when it comes to saving big because when you order online through the Ralph's app, you get the same great prices, deals, and rewards on pickup or delivery that you do in store. So no matter how you shop, you always save big at Ralph's. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Fight on.
Fight on.
I just want to brag, Cody. Last episode with Dion, all 4 ad reads, 1 take.
Perfect.
That's
because
incredible.
Dion doesn't give you a hard time about messing up some of the words like I do.
He just laughs at
in
me
between takes.
But I don't know what happened. It was a 1 take wonder.
Hey, there you go.
Already.
I'm just happy that I don't have to do all the ad reads. I did one last week actually, right?
No, you tried and then you gave up.
Did we take it out?
Yes.
Okay. Today. I'll try one today.
I think we took it out.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll do one today though.
Okay.
I'm feeling confident.
I will keep your word.
Okay.
Alrighty. Reviewing Utah, Cody, what did you find on the tape?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I'm going to be very frank, very blunt today, and we have been in the past, and obviously that's been a trend for this offense. But I feel like I have more leeway to talk about this, and I have said the last 2 weeks that I feel like, hey, I'm not worried about it because we're going to get back on track. That's not happening. We're not getting back on track. We're not seeing the offense that we're used to seeing under Lincoln Riley. We're seeing flashes of it. We started out well early on in the game. We had 2 big drives there to start out the football game, but it just feels like we're getting away from an identity that we're so used to seeing on the offensive side of the ball that now we haven't said it in a while. Cody's concern meter. What'd you used to call it?
Cody concern meter.
Yeah, it's going off a little bit, and that's just me being 100% transparent and talking about this. And as you look at the stats from the game the other night, and these stats the last 3 weeks have been under what we're used to seeing, and they're starting to decline and get lower and lower. And I'm talking about the season averages, not just this year, but last year as well. And you're seeing SC drop a little bit when it comes to, where they rank among the rest of the country. Now, again, wins and losses are most important, but how do you get those wins and losses? You have high-powered offense. You rank high in a lot of categories, especially consistently on the offensive side of the ball. So total points, 32, below season average. Total yards, 401, again below. Total passing yards, only 256. Total rushing yards, 145. And I want to hang on that one real quick for a second because that's going to be one of the topics when we get into kind of the overview of the game. Is we went up against the number 1 run defense in the entire country, not just in the Pac-12, but the entire country. And we started out the football game making them look like a bottom half run defense. We were running the football so well.
I was so surprised.
I mean, the first run, 10 yards, Austin Jones. Next run, I think another 10-yard run. Then we go 45-yard touchdown, Marshawn Lloyd. We were running the football at will, and that was almost the entire first quarter and first half. We just got away from it, right? And that was something that's frustrating. And again, I have that in the notes, and we'll get into that. But let me finish the offensive stats. Third down, have to be better on third down. 4 of 11, 36% is not going to win football games. You have to be better on third down. I need that number to be 45%, 50%, or above. If you want to continue to win football games, to extend drives, you have to be able to convert on third downs, and you have to finish in the end zone. You can't settle for field goals. Shout out to Dennis Lynch, right? Huge plays there later in the game. Kept us in the football game with that 45-plus kick, and then he came back and hit a 35-yarder as well. But those were situations where we needed to finish with 6. We can't finish with 3, and that was one of the key points I had. Win on third down. Yes, Utah, number 1 third down defense in all of college football, but we also are a very good offense. We should be able to compete and put up good numbers in those categories on the offensive side of the ball. We just struggled a little bit there on Saturday night. Now going to the individual stats, Caleb Williams, 24 of 34, 256 yards. Not a stat line we're used to seeing from him. No touchdowns through the air. 10 carries, 27 yards, a rushing touchdown on the ground, which took the lead, which could have been the go-ahead touchdown there at the end of the game. But outside of that, just was struggling a little bit, just feels a little bit off for whatever reason. Then you go down to Marshawn Lloyd, 7 carries, 86 yards, averaging 12.3 yards a carry. Also had that huge touchdown run, but only 7 carries for someone who's averaging 12.3 yards a carry is a question mark. It's a little frustrating. You ask yourself as not only fans, but myself as a former player watching the game, why are we not giving him the football, right? And I know he had that fumble in the second half, sure, that's fine, but that's going to happen. Caleb Williams had 3 picks the week prior against Notre Dame. We didn't stop throwing the football. We didn't take the football out of his hands. I would have loved to see Marshawn Lloyd continue to get the ball as the game went on. Austin Jones as well, 5 carries for 31 yards. He was rolling there starting off the football game. But we just, in my opinion, abandoned the run game a little bit too early, especially when you look at the stat lines from these guys. And then wide receiver-wise, Taj Washington, big playmaker of the night, had 2 huge catches. And that's something that I felt like we got away from a little bit too, is that wow factor of this offense. And I'm almost kicking myself for a couple weeks ago talking about, hey, we need to help the defense out. How do we do that? Let's extend drives. Let's focus on time of possession. Let's help our defense stay off the field. I want to walk all of that back. I want those big explosive plays back. I want 3 plays, 75 yards touchdown. I want 2 plays, 80 yards touchdown.
So you're just in the mode of fix it
at all costs? I'm not saying that, and obviously I'm not saying Coach Riley watched our podcast and said, hey, great call there, Cody and Keely. Let's go ahead and focus on time of possession and stop explosive plays. But and it was at the time, that was something I think that could have helped our defense. And again, we'll get into defense. I think the defense took a step back than they did from the Notre Dame game in this game. But I'm saying that when we made the comment about we need to help our defense by having time of possessions, let's run the ball. Yes, when you're up later in the game, you can do that. But we're not getting up early in the game at all, let alone late in the game. We need to have those explosive plays back. And it feels like we're losing those a little bit when we had that deep ball to Taj Washington. And the second one to Taj Washington, that deep throw, the run by Marshawn Lloyd, not only does it get the team going and gets the team excited, you get the fans into it, especially at home. And then when you're away, you take their crowd out of it. I feel like we've lacked a little bit on those explosive plays. And those 2 to Taj Washington were huge plays the other night that I felt like really sparked not only this offense, but the Coliseum. And then you go into the rest of that, really no one else is stepping up. Lake McCree, 3 for 35. Dorian Singer, 4 for 35. And they did a good job of shutting down Brennan Rice, who has been probably the number 1 receiver so far this season, only 5 catches for 34 yards.
Look, I know you preface this.
I know.
But you're passionate
You can
today.
hear my breathing right now, too. I'm like, whew. I always say I'm going to be brief and to the point, and let's get to the preview episode, but I'm a football player / I've never coached before, but I feel like I'm an honorary coach at heart. But you watch the film back, and I love this because it feels like the Monday morning quarterback type of show where I can just go off and say, hey, this is what I saw, and there's more points we can get to in a second. But, the numbers and looking at the film and everything, it backs up kind of what I'm saying, and I'm just trying to make it a little bit more of, instead of saying, hey, here are the stats, here are the numbers, I'm trying to explain a little bit why we're seeing that and what I think might be off a little bit. But, yes, I am buckle up because I'm passionate this episode. As soon as I said I wasn't going to be, I can tell I'm already locked in. I'm ready to go. So
yeah, and as such, I have so much to go off of what you just said. First up, you mentioned Caleb Williams. This was, I believe, it broke a 24-game streak for him to not have a passing touchdown. We were very curious what he was going to look like off of that Notre Dame game. What did you see from him? Yeah,
Caleb's been off, right? There's no other way of saying it than he has been off going back to the Arizona game, right? And it's just, I don't know what the answer is, though. And I'll say, I'm going to tell you what I think he can fix to get back in a rhythm, but why he's off, it's tough for me to put a finger on that because last week the offensive line struggled heavily against Notre Dame, right? They did. They gave up 4-man rush, just too many sacks with no pressure. Then when they did bring pressure, Caleb struggled as well because he couldn't really set his feet because of the offensive line giving up protection issues. That wasn't the case this week. Our offensive line did a great job against a very good front seven, right? Utah was second, I think, in the entire country, or no, 5th in the entire country in sacks with 22, and they had Jonah Ellis, their defensive end, who was 2nd in the entire country with 9. We did a great job. Only gave up 3 sacks in the game. A big part of that was Caleb, in my opinion, holding on to the football too long. So that's where I kind of lead into where can he get back on track, get the ball out of your hands. I'm fine. Let's put the Houdini, the playmaking, let's put that away for a little bit because sometimes I think he tries to put too much pressure on himself and tries to make the big play that isn't there, right? And we talked about that last week against Notre Dame. Did a good job of not forcing the football this week. I was happy with him protecting the football. Didn't make, we call them interception-worthy throws to where Utah had a chance to make a play on the football. So check there. Did a great job of protecting the football. Did have that fumble where it slipped out of his hands. That's something you've got to fix. Can't happen, especially in that point in the game. But when it came to throwing the football, he did a good job of protecting it. I was happy with that. But where I think he needs to take that next step, and this is going to help out his offensive line, this is going to help out the rhythm of this team on the offensive side of the ball, is find your check down. I'm okay with that. Let's not wait for guys to get open, because there are times guys aren't getting open. We're struggling in the scramble drill. There are times on film, and when we play at home in the Coliseum and I watch the TV copy, and I was telling you this earlier, I can see the receivers a little bit better because it's zoomed out more at the Collie, and guys were not getting open as much as we're used to seeing. Guys were running, and it was almost like Velcro, to where guys were running and just saying, hey, this is my route. I'm going to run 5 yards and sit, and there's a defender attached to him, instead of working a little bit, being a football player and getting open. And in my opinion, Caleb takes that upon himself to say, all right, well, now I have to buy time, which he's done so well in the past. Now I have to buy time until someone does get open, but you're hurting your offensive line in the long run, because it's so hard to block multiple times every game for 8 seconds, for 10 seconds. You're used to, and you see the clock on NFL games, right? The meter. This guy's doing a great job because he's getting the ball out in 2.5, 2.6, 3.1, whatever it may be. That's how you help out an offensive line that has struggled a little bit in the past, and that's how you kind of get back into a rhythm of avoiding taking those negative plays. And he does a great job. I'm not saying that he doesn't find things open downfield when he does scramble. There aren't times to do that, but I think he's trying to do that every time something's not there, instead of just finding Marshawn Lloyd in the flat, or finding your outlet to Zachariah Branch on the fly motion or whatever it may be, or running 2-3 yards, sliding and get down. One option not there, two option not there, take off and run, slide, pick up 3 yards, positive play, instead of taking a sack or running around and tiring out your offensive line. So that's one of the things I saw. There's some other issues, that we could touch on, but that's where I think priority A needs to be this week for Caleb. That's how he gets back in rhythm, is correcting those issues.
Riley talked after the game about, the expectations placed on this team in year 2. And what you just described, and I say this as a fellow perfectionist, but it almost feels like you're describing Caleb being a little bit too much of a perfectionist out there.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that coincides with maybe like too much like outside noise coming in? From your perspective as a former quarterback, where is that? What changed with Caleb as far as the difference we're seeing?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think a big part of that was him, and you want to put those high expectations on yourself, right? But he said before the season started, I want 60 touchdowns and no interceptions, right? Which, again, I said, is it possible? Sure. Is it probable? I don't know, right? That's a huge ask of yourself, but to put that much pressure on yourself, and obviously he's the best quarterback in all of college football, so he's the one that can do it, but to put that much pressure on yourself early on, I think is tough to back that up. And again, oh yeah, by the way, you won the Heisman Trophy last year. How do you get better this year? It's tough. And I remember listening to Matt Leinart back in the offseason at the House of Victory event, and he was saying that I put so much pressure into myself after winning the Heisman that following the year that I was struggling with things that I hadn't struggled with before, right? And that's something I think Caleb's doing this year, is something that was so natural for him and he played so free last year isn't as free this year, because he's trying to be perfect and take it to that next step when you don't need to be. Just be yourself and be who you've been last year and leading up to this year. The first 4 or 5 games, that's enough for this team to win football games and this offense to be productive. On the whole,
and I wanted to ask this last week, Riley said that this offense needs to play more 11-man ball. And I feel like it's this weird line that you have to tightrope walk, if you will, but both as a player and as a coach, to make sure you're doing your job, but not pressing. And if everyone's trying to play like, hey, we got to play together, everyone needs to do their job, but you're also not pressing or overcompensating for other position groups. Like, at some point, how do you get this team out of their own head?
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's what it really comes down to, is it is 11-man ball. You have to trust the person next to you to do their job. Now, there are times where you can pick up your teammate and help them out. If the right guard misses a block, the right tackle can come down and help out, right? If the center misses a block, left guard can help out. There are times that you're going to pick up your buddy and help your teammate, but at the end of the day, you have to focus on your job, right? That's the biggest message that I remember from college. Do your job. Don't worry about everyone else. Trust your teammates to do their job, but focus on your job. If all 11 guys do their job, then we have a chance to win football games, to be successful on both sides of the football. But when you, as Caleb, I feel like has done the last couple of games, try to do everybody else's job and put that pressure on yourself, if the offensive or if the receivers are struggling to get open, that's not your fault, Caleb. That's on the receivers. Now, you can work on that in practice throughout the week. Hey, let's get open. Let's work on this. Let's do that. But trying to do too much in a game can hurt you more than can help you. If the offensive line isn't protecting well, or I don't want to say this is other people's fault. If Caleb is holding the ball too long, like I think he is on some of these plays, offensive line, they have to now focus on, all right, now we've got to block for these long periods of times when it doesn't feel like we're getting in a rhythm, we're getting the ball out quick and helping us when maybe we are struggling. And not say they're struggling, but they're trying out new guys at spots. So obviously there's been issues up front. How do you fix all that? Again, going back to what I just said, do your job. Don't try to do everybody else's job. And there are times, too, where receivers are open, and I don't know if Caleb's just missing them or he's worried about the rush. And we talked about this during the game is, you said, hey, he's missing some guys, or I said, hey, he's missing some guys, and you asked me, where does that come from? I said, it's really kind of two things, is he's worried about the rush, not holding up and getting hit and having to take off and run, or he's just not seeing guys or trusting guys are going to be there like we have in the past, like he did last year with Mario Williams, with Jordan Addison, with Brendan Rice, guys that last year felt like he was throwing it and trusting they're going to be there. Now it feels like he's waiting to see if they're going to get open. And he wasn't doing that early on in the season, right? His numbers through, I think, the first 5 games were better than his Heisman Trophy numbers a year prior. It just feels like ever since the second half of Colorado or that Arizona game, we just have been off as an offense, and it's tough to put a finger on what it is. I think it's multiple issues, but it's tough to pinpoint, hey, this is exactly what it is. But as a quarterback, you accept that responsibility. It starts at the top, and it starts with you as being the leader of the offense.
You mentioned that switch at offensive line. I thought that was interesting. I had anticipated the switch, obviously, because they had previewed it in practice and in interviews, but I did not think of that iteration. I thought it was genius, though. Mason Murphy at right guard, and then they kicked out Jarrett Kingston. I thought the offensive line did well. I'm just curious if you agree with that assessment, Cody.
Yeah, no, I really liked that lineup, and obviously they took out Michael Tarquin, but they went left tackle Jonah Monheim, left guard Emmanuel Pregnon, center was Dedich, right guard Mason Murphy, who had been rotating at right tackle, and now Jarrett Kingston, who was at right guard, now moves out to right tackle. So, and it worked the other night. In my opinion, when you watch the film back, the O-line played a lot better this game. And I put that in all caps. They played well. Yes, we did give up 3 sacks, but again, I put those more on Caleb than I do this offensive line. I thought they did great in pass protection. I thought they did great against pressure. I thought they did great in the run game as well. So I would say huge check mark for the offensive line getting better from the week prior against Notre Dame. And I would assume that this would be the offensive line going forward, or it needs to be for the time being until if there is another issue or if something comes up again. But I love this group of 5 right now, and I think this is what we need to continue with going forward and build off of this last game.
You already touched on this, but the run game, why do you think that they kind of strayed away from what was so successful at the start?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And again, Utah had the #1 run defense in all of college football, and we were running the football so well. So that could have been a factor. And also, there was a point there when we do go down 14 in the second half, which could cause a little panic, like, hey, we've got to get back in this football game. Rightfully so, but I just thought we were controlling the line of scrimmage so well on the ground starting off that football game that I would have loved to see a lot more than 7 carries for Marshawn Lloyd and only 5 carries for Austin Jones. Austin Jones had one of his better games, and again, only 5 carries, but 30 yards off of those 5 carries. Did a great job of 10 yards a pop, right? The first couple plays looked like we can run this football for a first down almost every time we touch it. And then we have that huge explosive run by Marshawn Lloyd. Then we come back and have another big 10-yard gain. So it just felt like we were having these huge explosive plays on the ground. We just completely got away from it. Now, I think a factor of that is, again, like I said, Marshawn Lloyd's fumble, didn't touch the ball the rest of the night after that. And then when we do go down 14, it may feel like, hey, we need to throw the football to get back in this game quickly. And I also think that we didn't expect Utah to put up 30, when they finished 30, what was it, 34, 32? Yeah. I didn't think we expected Utah to put up 34 points or even 14 right away to start off this football game because their offense had been struggling this year, right? They were in the very lower section of rankings when it came to nationally of where their offense stacked up. So I think seeing them score a little bit, Lincoln might have thought, hey, our defense is struggling a little bit. We've got to go into another shootout. Let's start throwing the football around. But either way, I feel like we need to continue to run the football. We can't abandon the run game as fast as we do sometimes. And even if there is a fumble, or even if we do have first down, we get 1 yard, second down, 3 yards, whatever, that's going to happen, right? There's going to be times where we get stuffed. You can't completely just go, okay, it's not working, let's go to the pass game, right? And I'm not saying that's exactly what goes through Coach Riley's head. And again, I'm just some former player who watches film and has an opinion. Coach Riley obviously is one of the best play callers in all of college football. I'm just saying, from my opinion, I would like to see us continue to have a balanced attack and continue to run the football, especially when we're having that much success against a dominant run. It felt like Utah was getting deflated, like, hey, this is what we do well. We're worried about Caleb Williams today. I know we're going to stop the run, but they had no answer for us early on. It felt like that defense was so deflated that something that they're not even successful at, the #1 defense in the country at stopping the run, they couldn't do it. And our offensive line, that gives you so much confidence going forward. Yeah. I would just like to see a little bit more of that in the second half and continue to feed Marshawn Lloyd. He had 7 carries. I would have loved to see for him to get 15 to 20, right? Because then you look at the other side of the ball, Jaquindon Jackson, I think had 25, 26 carries on the Utah side of the football, and they kept running the ball. kept extending drives that way, and that helps you get in a more manageable third down situation when you can run the ball well on first and second down.
Now, I'm going to be completely honest here. I'm not sure if we had this conversation off recording or on recording, but you have mentioned at some point USC's offensive identity and that you're not really sure where it's at right now. Why do you think that's the case at this point in the season?
Yeah, I don't know. And I wish I had an answer for this question. And I think this USC offense is still trying to answer that question as well. Last year, it was like we knew what we were going to get with this offense, right? It was going to be explosive plays from Caleb, explosive plays in the pass game. Travis Dye was going to come in and be dominant on the ground. There were games where he ran the ball 15, 20-plus times. Austin Jones was going to be a great 1-2 punch, and that's who we were, right? Jordan Addison was going to have a big play no matter what. Regardless of what's happening in the game, he was going to have a big play. Then Taj Washington was going to pop out of nowhere and have a big play. Mario Williams, Brendan Rice, guys were making big plays left and right. It feels like we've just lost that, right? And you don't know what to expect. And I feel like this is the first time I've watched a USC football game on the offensive side of the ball since Lincoln Riley's taken over and thought, man, I hope we get something going this, or I don't know what to expect this drive. Hopefully we don't go 3 and out, or hopefully we get a spark this drive, instead of watching from years prior or even earlier this season and last year saying, who's it going to be this drive, right? Who's going to have the big play? I can't wait to see what Lincoln's going to do in his bag of tricks and find ways to bring Jordan Addison out of the backfield or motion out someone and send Mario Williams over the middle. And it just doesn't feel like you have that. It almost feels like I'm a little more tense watching this offense recently, being like, are we going to have a big drive this time? Or are we going to put up points? Or, are we going to get in a rhythm? What's going to happen?
But the weird part is that I felt like it had that 2022 characteristic, the first drive.
Yeah, it did.
Against a top defense.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that, like, everyone looked confident. The reverse to Zachariah, like, I thought it was...
Yeah, those first 2 drives, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It did. That huge run by Marshawn Lloyd. Then the deep post to Taj Washington. Beautiful. Great. That's that explosive play I talked about earlier on. That's how you get the Coliseum involved. Then you come back and do a fake run, reverse to Zachariah Branch. And since we brought that up, it's another thing. We need to continue to find ways to get number one the football, right? Only 1 catch and one run on the ground, which was the touchdown. It has to be more involved. He's too explosive. I don't care if he's a true freshman. He is too explosive. He needs 10 to 12 touches minimum, not counting special teams on the offensive side of the ball. But yeah, I'm with you there. It really did those first 2 drives, but that's what's been happening, right? And against Arizona, we started out not having that, right? Almost the whole first half. Caleb only had 3 completions or 4 completions the whole first half. Then in the second half, we found it a little bit and got a little more explosive, but we're just so used to seeing, and even the Colorado game, we were used to that. Caleb had 6 passing touchdowns that game. It was who's going to score left and right. Let's keep rolling.
We were
Let's
like,
keep going.
He's going to break your record.
Yeah, we're ready for him to break a record. And when I was doing the Fox thing, we said, hey, he's 1 away. We kept talking about it. But it just feels like the last 2 games in the fourth quarter of Colorado and the last 3 games now, I've been watching this offense like, who's going to make the big play? Who's going to step up? Because Caleb's been off a little bit, and it's tough to really figure out where we click or where we get going when Caleb's off. But my answer for that is what I just said. Let's continue to run the football. Let Marshawn Lloyd put everything on Marshawn Lloyd's back right now. Yeah, he had the fumble. I'm not worried about that, right? That happens. It's going to happen. Even the best players fumble. They turn the football over. It's going to happen. How you continue to build confidence in a player that does that is you keep giving him the football, right? And that's what Utah did the other night, right? Barnes threw a pick 6 to Kalen Bullock. Huge play. What'd they do? Very next drive came back and threw the wheel route to Sione Vaki down the sideline, right? They didn't shy away from it. That's something that I would have liked to see from us a little bit in the second half is, hey, Marshawn Lloyd fumbled. Sure, this is still a close football game. We don't have to throw it to get back into it. It's still an 8-point game or a 5-point game. Keep running the football. Allow Marshawn Lloyd to be dominant on the ground. But whatever it is, it feels off right now. And that identity that we're so used to seeing for me, as an offensive player watching, as a former quarterback, you can feel that, and I'm sure fans can too. I'm not trying to say that I know better than everyone else. You can tell on the Coliseum. I was there for the whole game. You can tell on Twitter, people leaving comments and all that. It just feels like this offense isn't what we're used to seeing the first, 18 games of Coach Riley's career. These last 3 have been, what's happening? When are we going to get a spark? Who's going to take over? When is this offense going to get back to that explosiveness that we're used to seeing?
Which goes back to like the snowball, chicken or the egg dilemma of getting out of your head, not pressing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you want things to happen so badly. Like you want that spark to happen that you almost get in your own way. It feels like an impossible task to get yourself out of that.
Yeah, in my honest opinion, and this is the last thing I'll say, and before we move on, is Caleb, I do think last week against Notre Dame, throwing those 3 interceptions, when you're not used to doing that. Now, again, he protected the football well this week. it doesn't matter who you are, how good a player you are, what you're capable of. When you have a game like that, that absolutely plays a little bit in the back of your mind, right? And even if it didn't carry over into this game, like after that happens, it's tough to overcome that. It's tough, and that's to your point saying of getting back in a rhythm, getting that confidence back it's tough to overcome that football game. It's tough to go in the locker room after the game and say, hey, wake up, man, that's not who we are. We've got to be better, because you feel like people are looking at you like, dude, you just threw 3 picks. Like, what are you yelling at me for? You've got to be better. Like, that's where it's tough for Caleb to be a leader in that situation, although that's BS, in my opinion, right? He's earned the right to have a game like that and still be like, hey, I'll be better, but we've got, like, he can still be who he is because he is Caleb Williams. I think he's a great player. All this talk around the country of, oh, he's going to fall in the draft and he's not who he thought he was and this and that, I'm not buying into that. I completely disagree with that. Now, I think there is some validity to he does struggle at times, and here's X, Y, and Z. Sure, you can make an argument. Everybody has issues that they have that they can get better at. But to say that all of a sudden, because he's had a couple bad games, that now he's not this great quarterback or generational talent, I'm throwing that out the window, right? But that's, for me, he's got to get back to that quickly. He has to get back to that very fast, and you have to block out those 3 interceptions, the games where you've been off a little bit, the accuracy issues against Arizona. You've got to block that out. It just feels like he doesn't have that confidence that we're used to seeing him play with, and I don't know how he's going to get it back. Whatever it may be, he needs to get it, and he needs to get it quickly.
Now, Cody, you know I love fun facts.
Yeah.
I have a fun fact. It's about Zachariah Branch. He now has at least 1 rushing, receiving, kick return, and punt return touchdown this season. And he's the first Pac-12 player since Christian McCaffrey in 2015 to record at least one of those 4 kinds of touchdowns in the same season.
And that right there, and I'm glad you did that because, hey, we're ham and egging it right here. That's how you back me up, because 2 touches for him on the offensive side of the ball cannot happen, right? I love what we did against Notre Dame. And if you watched the Trojan tailgate, I don't know what camera Jade is on right now, but I'm pointing at you. If you watched the Trojan tailgate, that was my offensive game plan. Look what Lincoln did last week against Notre Dame. We didn't just put him at receiver and say, hey, go get open. We'll find you when you're open, or hopefully you can get open, get a couple passes. We put him at running back 6 or 7 times in that football game and send him on motion, fake. Then we threw a little slide to him in the flat. Then we throw a screen to him. Then we just turn and hand it off to him and let him treat it like a punt or a kick return and take off and pick up a 17-yard gain. So there has to be ways that we get him the football, not just as a receiver, putting him at running back, throwing little screens, little soft tosses, the Tyreek Hill type of plays, because that's who he reminds me of, right? Yeah. We talked about that in the offseason, and I was like, hey, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. And I made this comparison back in...
You know, you did it when they announced his signing.
Yeah, when he signed, I said, look, he reminds me of someone who's number 10 on the Miami Dolphins right now. And you said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I said... He reminds me of Tyreek, but that's how you, and Mike McDaniels with the Dolphins is so good, and Lincoln Riley so good at finding ways to get their playmaker the football. Just in my opinion, only getting him 2 touches on the night, you have to find ways to get him more involved in the offense. 10 to 12 minimum. He's just that good of a player. Yeah.
Already now, other side of the ball, the defense, and I know we're still in the recap section,
so fine.
Your thoughts on the defensive performance?
Obviously Dion did a good job going over this. That's his bread and butter, and I'll be a little bit quicker on this. But just looking at the stats, gave up 34 points to this Utah offense that's been struggling. Total yards 482. Can't happen. They've been averaging, I think, around 350. Then you go total passing yards.
Most of the season.
Yeah, and then passing yards 235. Barnes played very well. I don't want to take that away from him, but he had struggled. His only touchdown pass of the year was the first play of the season against Florida. Other than that, watching him on film, he struggled for whatever reason. We made him look better than I think he is, but I don't want to take credit away. Not to say he's not a good quarterback and had a good game.
But it's a trend that you've identified.
It is. We did it last year as well, and there's been times where we've played quarterbacks that have struggled, and we made them look a little bit better. And you want to go back to Cal from last year, Colorado from a year ago, some games like that you feel like, hey, these quarterbacks are putting up, Drew Pine, the Notre Dame game, are putting up numbers that we're not used to them seeing, and they're doing it against our defense, right? So that's a little frustrating for me. But then you go the rest of the stats, total rushing yards, 247, can't happen, right? And I said they want to run the football. They want to control the pace of the game. Let's force them to throw it. They had more rushing yards than they did passing yards. They were dominant on the ground all night long. Just that can't happen. Now, positive, third down. Utah was 3 of 13, only 23%. We were phenomenal on third down, did a great job of getting off the field. It was just first and second down, giving up those explosive plays, right? The 2-wheel routes, the quarterback draws on second down, stuff like that is where we were struggling on the night. And then fourth down, Utah was 2 of 3 conversion rate. Can't happen. When you have a fourth down, especially on gotta have it situations on that last drive, you have to get off the field, right? The great defenses love being in that situation where they know we need one stop here to get off the field and the game's over. Put it in our hands. We don't need our offense to go down and score. Your offense did their job. Now let's come out and make a stop and let's be that defense. And there's been times where we've had that opportunity. We just haven't converted, right? We haven't been able to do that. And then you go to the individual stats for Utah. Just Bryson Barnes, again, 14 to 23. Not great completion percentage, only 61%. And he didn't, don't get me wrong, he didn't look like an All-American out there, but he had looked better than he had previously, right? And we were allowing him to be comfortable in the pocket, to find guys getting open. Only one sack on the entire night, which is frustrating, right? This is this USC front four. We've talked about how dominant they were, and one of my keys to the game was being dominant up front, right? Controlling the line of scrimmage, and we struggled getting pressure on Barnes all night long. And not only did we struggle getting pressure on him, we allowed him to take off and run and come up with big plays on the ground. Had 10 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Jaquindon Jackson, 26 carries, 117 yards, 4.5 average. And then my biggest concern of the night was my red dot guy on both our first ever two-way red dot player, someone that we said we have to stop. This is a player that can affect the football game, is running back / safety, Sione Vaki, right? Had 9 carries for 70 yards and had 5 receptions for 150 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. That is not winning football. You cannot allow that to happen. And this goes back to the trend of me being frustrated about one player or two players that are hurting us, and we can't find a way to stop them, right? Going back to last year, Dalton Kincaid. Going back to this year, T-Mac and Jacob Cowan, right? And then we go back even earlier than that, Omarion Miller from Colorado. Games where there's one player that's having an effect on the entire outcome, and we can't find a way to stop them, right? And that's something that's frustrating for me. And Sione Vaki is a phenomenal football player. I don't want to take anything away from that. He is a very good football player on both sides of the football, but we just have to find ways to not allow one player to dictate the outcome of the game.
Now, we've gotten questions about this, Cody, and I see it in your notes as well. The physicality on defense, how would you evaluate that overall?
Yeah, the first thing that I wrote down on the defensive side in my notes, all caps, highlighted in red as well, might I mention, is we have to be more physical in the run game, right? We're not seeing that dominant physicality come downhill, smack you in the mouth, make the tackle, not giving up missed opportunities, missed tackles to a very good Utah run offense where there's times where we're in the backfield and we have a great chance to stop it and be dominant in the run game. And it's not like we gave up huge runs all night, right? But there are glaring issues where we struggled, and there's too many. I wrote, too many times there are no penetrations from the linebacker coming downhill, right? You see, especially to start off the football game, Tackett Curtis starts off the game. We've talked so much about him in the offseason, how physical he can be, which he can be, and he shows flashes of that. Yes, he's still a freshman, but you have to do it every single play, right? And I hate comparing to old players because everybody finds their own identity, but we need the Brian Cushing come downhill. We need the Ray Maluk, and these are huge comparisons, but you know what? It's time to start saying that. That's the defense that we need to see from USC, and they are capable. That's why I'm comfortable saying this, is because they are capable of doing that. And guess what? We saw it last week against Notre Dame, a very good run offense. Audric Estime, one of the best running backs in all of college football. We did a great job against them. Yes, our offense hurt us, and the points didn't look great because we were in bad situations. But overall, defensively, we played a very solid game last week. It just didn't transition into this week, right? We struggled with Vaki, and we struggled with Jaquindon Jackson. We have to be able to be more physical in the run game. Another note I wrote, too many times that we are Ole blocking, or not blocking, but Ole getting blocked, I guess you would say, is where, and what I mean by that is if you're responsible for the A-gap, it doesn't mean turn sideways and get pushed out. We're giving up wide open running lanes to where me and you could run through the gap, right? And there are multiple times, and I don't say that to be insulting, that is more of a challenge of stop letting that happen, right? Mason Cobb, Shane Lee, Tackett Curtis, Rajon Davis, guys like that, take that personal, right? I would watch film back and say, hey, I can't give up these running lanes. I don't want to put this on film to where I'm sidestepping and allowing myself to be blocked because I know they're way more physical. And I wouldn't say this if I didn't think they're capable of it. I would say, hey, we don't have the right players. We're not good enough. It is what it is. Maybe next year. No, I know these guys are capable of being good because they put good plays on film. Mason Cobb is a phenomenal football player when he plays as physical as I know he can be. Tackett Curtis is going to be very good in the future. He's having some freshman moments throughout the year, but I know he can do it down in and down out. I want him to make mistakes at 110% every time. I don't want him to sit there and allow himself to be blocked and look around and say, oh, wait, am I pressuring this time or do I come down? Which is going to happen as a freshman, but make those mistakes at 110%, right? I'm getting fired up again.
You are.
I'm trying not to, but overall, that's my first point. Got to be more physical in the run game.
And let me just say, this is your passion about.
And I love these guys as players. I want them to be successful because I know they can be, and it's just frustrating, and I know the fans see it too. There are people out there that are straight up just negative and have nothing positive to say. You have to remember, though, at the end of the day, these are 19, 20, 18, like these are young kids that are still learning. We just love USC football. I love USC football. I'm passionate about it. And I do think it's a combination of both putting guys in the right spot and also guys making the plays when they're in the right spot. So there is a combination here. I'm not putting all of the blame on the players, but being a former player, I'm fine with that. I wouldn't mind when people would say, hey, you got to be better. I would take that personal. I'd block you first, but then I'd say, all right, watch this and watch this. And I love Tom Brady did it recently and he did a great job. And I love playing with Tom when I was there in New England of when he would say, I would take things personal even if it wasn't, right? I would find a way to create an enemy. Like, what did have you seen that clip?
Or like the Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And I took that personal.
And I took that. You have to go out there every single play and think to yourself, I'm trying to eat, not only right now in this game, but NFL scouts are watching this, right? I don't want to have a bad play. I don't want to take a play off. You have to down in and down out, put dominant things on tape. One guy that's doing that, right? And I'm getting a little off topic here. Bear Alexander. Got to slow down a little bit, right? Got in trouble there with that 15-yarder late in the game that really hurt us, and also had that play where he threw the Utah player down and got a fresh set of downs down the goal line. But you know what? At this point, maybe not the helmet to helmet. That was just a little, you got to be a little bit smarter, but I love it. He is playing so physical right now. He's being a dominant player, and then you see him cry on the sideline because he cares. That's how much it means to him, right? I'm fine with that, right? And maybe, hold it in a little bit. You don't want to see that, but at the end of the day, it's passion. That's what this game is. It's an emotional game, and if you've never played, you don't understand how passionate it is and how much you care.
I mean, for example,
but I want
where you are right now,
and I'm not saying that to take away from our fans, but I get frustrated when people take shots at the kids, at the players, right? Yeah. And I hate and especially the people just joined a month ago or just joined Twitter a week ago just so I can come on and talk trash about our players and put them down, right? They're still kids. They're still learning. But this is more so me challenging them because I know what they're capable of. We just have to do it, and it's just frustrating because you'll watch one or two plays on film where I'm like, dude, Cobb, shot out of a cannon. Curtis, playing confident, coming downhill, smacking a dude in the mouth, taking on a 310-pound pulling guard. And then you watch two plays later and just kind of getting blocked, getting pushed out of the way, not being physical, or Cobb kind of hopping around, just guessing to where you guys just play like you can, down in and down out. Consistency, yeah. And that's just, for me, I'm getting going a little bit, but I'm just trying to be a little more transparent from me being critical of guys on film because I know what they can be. If I didn't think they could, I'd say, hey, look bad again. Hopefully next week will be better, right? No, I know how dominant and how good these kids are. I know how much they care, that I want to see it down in and down out because I know they can do it.
I know you're passionate right now, Cody, so I don't know if I should just move on to Cal, or do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I had to catch my breath there for a second. But I guess my first point is be more physical in the run game. Right?
Sure.
I went about different ways that we can do that, but that's my overall point. Have to quit giving up wide open run lanes and have to be more physical coming downhill and not miss tackles when we do find ourselves in the right position. The next topic that we have to talk about, or I want to talk about, is the touchdown play to Sione Vaki on the wheel route when we had Braylon Shelby covering him in man-to-man.
First touchdown in the game.
And explain that a little bit more. Did Dion touch on this a little bit?
He did, but you had the context of previewing that last week.
I'm saying too and we did. We talked about, so first and foremost, just being completely transparent, right? Coach Grinch came out in the media and said, we haven't seen that on film yet, right? And that's tough because we talked about on the podcast a week prior I said Barnes missed a wide open wheel route out of the backfield. And that's something that, sure enough, was to Sione Vaki, right? That's a play they run. Now, in Grinch's defense, he's absolutely right about the personnel part of it. They did not run that play out of a 12 personnel. There were two tight ends on that play. They did a shift. They did a different look on it. Then they put him to the opposite side of the they put him to the same side of the two tight end set with a tight Z receiver. So it was a different look. They did the week they did it against Cal, had a fly motion, kind of flood the boundary play we would do with the Dory Jackson, right? That was kind of that type of play. Flood the boundary, pull the flat zone defender out, send the other guy on a post, and then you have the wheel, right? They did this time out of a crossing route, and then they had the wheel from Sione Vaki. But I'm okay with that play call if you bring pressure from the inside, right? There are times, and as an offensive player, we're not the first team to ever peel a defensive end and get in a gotcha type of play, right? There are going to be times that happens. Now, the reason that I have a problem with it was because when you have that situation, normally when you're playing man-to-man, you have a linebacker man-to-man on the running back, unless you're bringing that linebacker in a pressure inside. That means that you know that it's going to be a 5-man rush. We're going to bring that interior pressure, and if they happen to release the back, then we're going to have to peel the defensive end out on him, and that is a got you type of play. Go watch NFL film, go watch college film. There are multiple times when defensive ends have to peel on backs, right? And as a quarterback, yes, they're calling interior pressure. We've got it peeling back. That's going to happen. You have to make sure you slide the line down, or else that free rusher linebacker is going to hit you. But we didn't even rush anybody. That was my problem on the play. If we brought Mason Cobb through the A-gap and forced Utah to block down and then release Shelby, got us. Dang it. Shoot, they got us, right? That happens. That's going to happen. But we didn't even bring Cobb. So Cobb was in no man's land. He just kind of acted like he was coming, then floated out, played like a whole coverage. There's no reason we should have brought Shelby and put Cobb on the running back right there in that situation if you're not going to blitz a backer. That's the first part to it. Okay, so then you say you haven't seen it on film. Fine. You haven't seen it out of that personnel, out of that look. Yes, they ran it against Cal a week prior, but if you haven't seen that formation and that type of play off of that formation, fine, you can say that. I'm okay with you making that comment. But they ran the same exact play off the same exact personnel, the same exact shift, the same exact motion, everything later on in the game, right after the pick six. We have all the momentum. It's 28, I think 23 at that point. I could be wrong. It's right around that score, but it felt like we were out of this. Or 28-23 because we went for 2 and we didn't get it. So it's 28-23. We have all the momentum. And then they come right back just through a pick six. Barnes' confidence is struggling now. Got the crowd back into it. Great play by Kalen Bullock. Beautiful play there by him. And now they come back and run that same exact play, same exact formation, same exact look. And we have the same exact coverage and the same exact everything on. And this time, we didn't even, the first time we brought 4. This time we only bring 3 and drop Romello Height out and leave Mason Cobb in no man's land again and still have Braylon Shelby cover. That's where I get a little frustrated with Coach Grinch saying we haven't seen this before on film. Fine. Out of that personnel, sure. Yeah, they ran a wheel route the week before against Cal, but I haven't seen that same personnel grouping, but you saw it earlier in the game. You have to make that in-game adjustment to know, hey, if they're going to do it again, or even I don't want to call play again where we're going to put Braylon Shelby on Sione Vaki, right? And you feel for Braylon Shelby, right? That's why I said earlier in the run game, there are times where Grinch puts us in a great position and we have to be more physical and the players have to make the play, but there also are times as a player where you're not put in the best position, and Braylon Shelby in those 2 plays, which were huge plays, and like I mentioned, right after the pick 6, gave confidence back to Barnes and it gave momentum back to Utah. That cannot happen. We have to be able to force a 3-and-out or get a stop there. And yeah, we held them to 3. They only put up 3, but you can't have those explosive plays that get some momentum right back to Utah. So that's where I'm a little frustrated. And I wanted to explain in depth a little bit about that. And I'm sure Grinch would have loved to elaborate more on that comment, right? He'd probably say, hey, we haven't seen that in film. What he meant by that was they're not doing it out of 12 personnel, out of that grouping, out of that certain look. They haven't seen that play. But you saw it already in the game once. You don't want to, you've got to make those in-game adjustments where you're not putting Braylon Shelby back in that same position. So again, the fans being frustrated about that, validated. I completely agree with that. I understand that. It's frustrated as a former player. And I love how blunt Coach Grinch is. He said, hey, and he said it in the media, I've got to be better. I've got to put us in better positions to win football games. And again, that's something I wanted to touch on there. And you just can't have that happen twice in the same game.
I know you, and I feel like you have a little bit more to say.
Yeah, that was when I stop right now, I'm going over my topics that I want to talk about. And like I said, I want to be transparent. Not that we're not on previous episodes, right? We are transparent, but we did a good job last week on defense. We didn't do a good job this week, right? We struggled a little bit. So I wanted to be a little more, and there were glaring issues, right? And it's not like we can just say, got to be better here, the numbers, here, the stats. I don't want to do that. I want to go into a little bit more depth on some of these topics because there are things that we can fix. That's the most frustrating part for me, is they're fixable things. They're things that we can get corrected that shouldn't happen, whether it's a player issue or a scheme or personnel or whatever it may be issue. They're things that we can fix that completely change the outcome of a football game. That's why it's so frustrating for me. But yeah, final thoughts, I guess, on that. Positives, great on third down. Again, very, very good on third down. Held Utah to 20% on third down. awesome. Getting off the field was huge. We did have some very good physical plays in the run game. That 4th and short, Tyrone Taleni did a great job of busting through the line and stopping them in the backfield. Was awesome to see. There were multiple times. Keon Bars down on the goal line did a great job being physical, and Bear Alexander, in my opinion, is so dominant. I love watching him play. A couple other players that I got to give a shout out to. Zion Branch was a lot of fun to watch, right? You can tell he's still a little fresh, made a couple of mistakes here and there, but I love how, and I knew he was going to play well by his off-season comments of, I don't care where you put me. And that was true on Saturday. He said, I don't care where you put me. I just want to help my team. I want to be on the field, right? Played him at safety a good amount. Love that. Played him in that they had like a dime package where he was playing that linebacker position in on a third down situation. Love that. He is such a good athlete and so physical and does a great job of running around and flying around. And again, still getting his football legs back under him, but huge bright spot on this defense. He played well. And then a couple other guys that I thought, and there were other players that played well. Again, I called out Mason Cobb and Tackett Curtis earlier on in the run game. Mason Cobb led the team in tackles, right? He is doing a good job of flying around. Tackett Curtis is still learning. He's a freshman, but I know how good these guys can be. I just want to see it every single down, right? I want to see it consistently. But another guy that played well, Solomon Byrd, played very well. Romello Height had a couple good plays there, had the only sack of the night. And then Kalen Bullock is, in my opinion, still an All-American, is going to be an All-American this year. I don't know if they'll give it to him, but that pick six, that's what you have. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games, right? Yeah. And especially when the lights are the brightest, right? Primetime game, 5 p.m. on Fox. Huge play, really kept us in that football game. And then I hate to leave on a negative, but the last thing I'll say is we cannot have that last play happen. That run by Barnes is completely unacceptable. Whether it's scheme, whether it's the players, whatever it is, I don't care whose fault it was. Now, we were playing man-to-man there, so we had nobody keying on Barnes. And you don't think, hey, Barnes is a running quarterback. But he had hurt us all night long. They had multiple plays where it was a straight-up draw. In the first one, he finished in the end zone, right, on a 5-man box with no pressure, and no one came downhill to be physical and just walked into the end zone on a draw. So we knew that he was going to take off and run. He'd already picked up a first down with his legs on a couple other plays as well, but that just cannot happen. We did a great job in coverage, did a great job of stopping him, even overcoming the targeting call that was on Bear Alexander, then getting ourselves in position. They're on the, 45-yard line. Then they get a false start. Coliseum, great job being loud, getting them like multiple times that the Coliseum was loud and forced them to have penalties, right? Shout out to the fans. Great job there. You have them on the 45-yard line with, 16 seconds left, 15 seconds left, or whatever it was. Anything but that, right? If they give up, if you play man-to-man and you say, hey, I'm putting our best on your best, and they take a shot, sure, you're not playing conservative because they only need 3, right? You're not going to play drop 8, take everybody out of the way, and just give up underneath routes because they make one play there, pick up 10, 15 yards, now they're in field goal range, right? You have to play aggressive. So I like the play call, but you have to have someone that's accountable for the quarterback. If they give up a go route down the sideline and it's our best versus your best one-on-one and they make the play, tip the cat. You won the game, right? You deserve to win the football game. But we can't make it that easy. And that's what I say, the great defenses find ways to get off the field. And yeah, you could go back to that targeting call. It would have been 4th and short. And also, I don't want to gut punch everybody even more, but go back and watch that play on the targeting call. They might have fumbled the football and Jameel Muhammad picked it up. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that.
We didn't see the slow motion replay. I don't know if the ground caused it, but it was close.
He had the ball, though.
He did. And I watched it back, and it looked like he was going to stretch for the first, and it was either right before he hit the ground, it looked like the ball popped out, or the ground popped it out. It didn't show the slow motion replay.
It was one of those things where the refs
But it was a clear recovery of Jameel Muhammad.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter because we had the targeting call. So there were times that we could have got off the field, but either way, just have to find a way to win the football game there. And that big run by Barnes for 25-plus yards, whatever it was, for a chip shot, turned it from the 45 into a chip shot field goal, can't happen, right? And again, I feel like I've got a lot more in depth on this episode for this game, but when you lose 2 in a row, it's tough to not say, hey, there's some issues that need to get fixed so we can get back and we can win this week. And then, oh, yeah, by the way, we go Washington, Oregon, UCLA. So we've got to get back on track. And those are very, very offenses that are, no disrespect to Utah, but are way better and have way more firepower than the offense we just played last week that looked very good against us.
Yeah, which is why you needed a self-scout. You know, you had to take more time this episode to kind of.
Yeah, well, it gives me a little more leeway, and I hate doing it. I don't want to do it, but if we lose 2 games in a row, I can't come on here and say, hey, we won the game. It's okay. We're getting better, right? Which We are still. The sky's not falling. There are some glaring issues. There are things that are happening. But again, we've only lost one game in Pac-12 play. We have taken our destiny out of our control, right? We don't control our own destiny now, right? We need some things to happen. If we would have just won out, then obviously we would have been in the Pac-12 championship. Now we need some things to happen. Now, college football playoff, that's gone, right? That's fine. All right, whatever. That's out of here. That's fine. But we can still win a Pac-12 championship. I don't think we can go to the Rose Bowl because I think that's a playoff game this year. But still get a big-time New Year's 6 bowl game. There are still a lot of great things that can happen for this football team. So I don't want it to feel like everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
But it does feel like that a little bit after 2 losses back-to-back, right? It is frustrating. And one of those losses, we've had like the worst case scenario too. Like we got a blowout loss against our rival, and then we have a heartbreaker to Utah in the last second. So it's been frustrating. But again, I wanted to be as transparent as possible this episode. And you know, I'm only doing this because I love this football team. I love these players. I've been in their shoes before. I understand what it's like to be that close to your goal, have goals set for you, and fall and come up a little short. And I know they can take it, right? They're not going to sit here and listen to the podcast and go, "Oh man, Cody's being mean." Like, no, hey, I'm a former player. I want the best for these guys. No one loves USC football more than us former players, us alumni, the faithful fans at home. Now, there's some that, again, just want to talk trash to talk trash. But remember, too, these are 19-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids who I promise care a lot more. It hurts a lot more to them losing a football game than it does to people at home. I promise you that. They care more than anybody, more than me, more than alum, anybody that watches USC football. But that's why I feel like I'm so hard on these guys, because I know what they're capable of, and I want to see them succeed, and I want it so badly for them. And I know they can get there. They just have to go out and do it.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Simmons made a good point on Tuesday. He said no matter what the outcome was on Saturday, they still needed to go and try and go undefeated for the rest of the schedule. Yeah. So it's not like anything changes as far as their plans.
Absolutely not. And that's what I don't. Yes, there's a lot of people saying the sky is falling and the season's over. I'll be blunt. College football playoffs is probably gone. That's out of the window, right? That's outside. That's gone. That's out of the picture. But again, still can win the Pac-12 if some things happen. But either way, we're playing for pride as well, right? Let's go win. Who knows though? Who knows what happens? We go beat. Say Washington's in the top 4.
UW and ASU.
ASU.
Last week.
Oh yeah.
That was wild. I would not have predicted that.
Again, I told you, hey, Dillingham, don't sleep on him. He's gonna be good, right? And he's doesn't have the best product right now on the field, but he's doing what he can with those guys. And that pick 6 there too. If they don't throw that pick 6,
I know.
Don't you hate? You hate like watching those games. And I wasn't even watching. The only reason I checked, I wasn't watching any football. I had just gotten home from our game, and I look on Twitter and Matt Leinart tweets, "Don't tell me ASU is about to beat Washington." And I said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Pac-12 After Dark, turned on the TV, and sure enough, right when I turn it on, they'll pick 6. And I'm like, I just jinxed them. That's my fault.
Oh, so it's you.
Yeah, it was my fault.
It's you, Cody.
But,
okay.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, every team right now, and again, Pac-12 is notorious
the cannibalism.
For hurting themselves and taking their own teams out of the playoff. But let's be that team this year. I want to dominate this week against Cal, get back on track. We're about to preview that. We'll be quick through that. I'll give you what you need to know about Cal. But going after that, we'll look ahead, and I want to dominate Washington, go beat Oregon at Oregon, and beat our little brother over there in Pasadena, and then let the chips fall how they do. And then we'll go from there. But again, I hope I was a little more passionate this episode, try to be a little more transparent and talk about some of these glaring issues, because we have lost 2 games in a row, and things need to change going forward and get back in the win column.
Alrighty, well, you just previewed it. USC faces Cal at Berkeley. For the last time, for the foreseeable future, their head coach, Cody, is someone that you have experience with.
Yeah, I absolutely love this guy as a person. Was an amazing coach when he was here at USC. We got along great, had some great battles too. He was a defensive coordinator here at USC. But the head coach is Justin Wilcox, going into his 7th season at Cal. They are 3-4 this year overall, 1-3 in the Pac-12. Their only win so far in the Pac-12 was against Arizona State. Previous coaching history was the Wisconsin defensive coordinator in 2016. And then, like we just mentioned, he was the USC defensive coordinator in 2014 and 2015. Interesting enough, has been, and this was crazy when I like looking at where they've been before.
Yeah.
He's only been a defensive coordinator everywhere he's been since 2006. So, he'll have like DC plus a position coach, but he's been a defensive coordinator since 2006 at all these different schools. So, very well respected, and then obviously besides being a head coach at Cal.
Sure.
But since 2006 all the way up to his job at Cal, he was a defensive coordinator. Now, if you go to the offensive side of the ball, their offensive coordinator is Jake Spavital. First season at Cal as the offensive coordinator, but his second time back with the Golden Bears as an offensive coordinator, has been coaching since 2008, and is a very successful offensive coordinator. His pedigree is very interesting to look at. He has a lot of big-name players and a lot of big-time offenses he's been a part of. Just some of the previous recent places that he's been. 2019 and 2022 was the head coach at Texas State, but before that was the offensive coordinator from 2017 to 2018 at West Virginia. Then at 2016, like I mentioned, was the offensive coordinator at Cal, but before that he was the offensive coordinator from 2013 to 2015 at Texas A&M. That 2013 season was Johnny Manziel's last year, where he threw for over, I think, 4,200 yards, had 37 touchdowns. Just those are the years that he was a part of that staff.
Yeah.
So he's capable of putting up big-time points at any time, any given week. Very good offensive coordinator. And then the defensive side of the ball is another name that USC fans will remember. Their defensive coordinator is Peter Sermon. This is his 6th season at Cal. Went over there with Wilcox. Some remember him, obviously, as a linebacker coach at USC. Previous coaching history, 2017 Louisville defensive coordinator. 2016 was a defensive coordinator at Mississippi State. And then, like I just mentioned, 2014 and 2015 was the linebacker coach here at USC. So Spavital, obviously no relation here to SC,
sure,
but you know this will be a little personal this week for this coaching staff as they get to face USC at home.
Now, I know that offense has kind of been an Achilles heel for Wilcox at Cal. What have they seen from this new quote-unquote offensive coordinator this season?
Yeah, this is his second time at Cal, but first time under Wilcox as an offensive coordinator. So going over their stats, first of all, offensively, total points is 29 points per game, which is 52nd in college football. 407 yards per game, 56th in college football. Total passing yards, they've struggled a little bit here, and it's been what's the word I'm looking for here? Not a circus. What's it called when there's a lot of quarterbacks?
Carousel.
A carousel of quarterbacks, and I'll explain that in a minute. But passing yards per game is 212, which is 87th in college football. Total rushing yards, though, is where they've excelled this year. 195 yards per game, which is 19th in college football. They have two very, very good running backs, both red dot guys this week, too, and I'll explain.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, a little spoiler alert. And then third down conversion, 41%. They've struggled on third down. Fourth down conversion is 55%.
Okay, so spoil the spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, let me start this. So we're going into key players. Their quarterback situation is very interesting right now, right? So I'll give you the stats on all three. First of all, it's quarterback Ben Finley.
All three?
Yeah, three. There's three of them. That's why I said I was trying to find the word carousel.
Carousel,
of
yes.
quarterbacks. But I'm telling you everything you need to know. That's what we do here on the Victory Pod.
We do.
Now we're on our meat and potatoes of the episode.
I haven't said that in a while.
I know you haven't.
Maybe that's the key.
Yeah, there you go.
I got to say meat and potatoes.
This is our meat and potatoes, or pumpkins, if you will, this week. By the way,
Jada, can we get a two-shot right now? The autumnal setup we have right now, sorry to the audio listeners, there's 4 pumpkins on our table.
My idea, by the way, I decorated all that.
Walked in and made fun of me for this.
I'll tell you what, though, my wife watching at home, she's all about whatever season it is, she's full in, so she will.
I did it just for
that.
Paige.
Yeah, Paige will love that. Yeah, she'll see that. I guarantee you, right when she watches, she'll go, "Oh, I love the pumpkins." First thing she'll notice, won't even pay attention to us.
That's adorable.
Okay, getting back on track here, the meat and potatoes
three quarterbacks
of their offense. You know what, though? I like when we're get to see a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff. We're a little more transparent. But anyways, back on track.
Yes.
So there are 3 quarterbacks that we could face this week. The first one, quarterback Ben Finley. These are 3 quarterbacks that have played significant amount of time, and I'll explain kind of the rotation once we get into the overall offense. But first one is quarterback Ben Finley, 6'3", 195-pound sophomore, 58% completion percentage on the year, 570 yards, 3 touchdowns to 4 picks. The quarterback that started the year was quarterback Sam Jackson V, 5'11", 195-pound sophomore, only 53% completion percentage, 550 yards, 5 touchdowns to 2 picks, and has 60 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. Now, the quarterback that I think we're going to see on Saturday, if he's healthy, is quarterback Fernando Mendoza, 6'5", 220-pound freshman, 31 of 50, 62%, 356 yards, has 4 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and also has 12 carries for 50 yards. Now, the running backs and why they rank so high in the country in rushing offense, remember they're 19th in the country in yards per game, is our 2 running backs are studs. In my opinion, Jaden Ott, 6 foot, 200-pound sophomore, is one of the better running backs, and not only the Pac-12 but in the country. So much fun to watch. 104 carries on the year, 602 yards, averaging over 5.8 yards a carry. Has 5 touchdowns. Also has 11 catches for 85 yards and 1 touchdown. Is my first red dot guy. My second red dot guy is the other running back, Isaiah Ifanse. Has 65 carries, 357 yards, and 7 touchdowns on the year. So not as many carries, only half the carries as Ott. but has 6 more touchdowns than Ott right now. He is their short yardage back. He's there down on the goal line. Power bruiser back, 5'9", 205-pound senior that they like to give the football there too. And then my last red dot guy is wide receiver Jeremiah Hunter. He's their leading receiver so far in the year, 30 receptions, 333 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And the other 2 pass catchers they have is wide receiver Taj Davis, 27 receptions for 303 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then their tight end Jack Endries, who is a 6'4", 230-pound freshman.
Okay, so I'm sorry to derail us, Cody, but this is kind of a first for us. We have to do some breaking news mid-podcast.
Oh, wow.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, we record around the time before USC practices in the afternoon. We have run late, so we're at the start of practice right now. Lincoln Riley is actually back at practice. He's
awesome.
being treated for pneumonia. And then we'll be able to talk to him on Zoom tomorrow, which is Thursday. So
awesome. Great. I'm glad he's back. I ask you, like, we're not down in the dungeon right now.
I know, I'm sitting right here.
Either way, it doesn't matter. That's all that matters. He's back at practice, and he's coaching this football team. So that's a whole nother thing to unravel.
I know.
Does that mean so Dennis Simmons is not going to be acting head coach?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, this is breaking news, so I have no answers besides that's all I know.
This is the first time we've had breaking news
that's what I'm saying.
live on a podcast that we've actually been able to talk about or
react
correct
live
from earlier. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad he's healthy. I'm glad they got that taken care of, and he can be back with this football team.
I mean, pneumonia is serious, so I'm glad that he was actually resting.
Yeah.
Because anyone in this industry never wants to rest or take time for themselves.
And that's what I was saying.
Yeah, no, I know.
It says he's I guarantee you he's fighting those doctors to be out here for them to say, you got to stay home. It was something serious. But again, either way, no matter what it was, I'm just happy that he's healthy and he's back with this football team. And again, it's bigger than football, so that's awesome. I'm sure his family is obviously feeling a lot better that he's getting better now too.
Yeah. So I guess with breaking news, we go straight back to what we were doing.
Yeah, well, that's a positive now. At least it's good breaking news.
Yes.
But yeah, so those are my red dot guys. Those are the players to keep an eye on. Again, I don't, they struggle a little bit on the offensive side of the ball, but we've really got to key on those 2 running backs. Those are I put Jeremiah Hunter as another red dot guy, but Ott and Afonso are the 2 people that we really have to key on this week.
So as you mentioned, it's been a quarterback carousel, but by all accounts, it seems like coming off the bye, Mendoza's going to start.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Sam Jackson start the season off, and then they went to Finley, and then they played Mendoza the last 2 games. He ended up getting hurt against Utah, which was a couple weeks ago now because Cal is coming off a bye this week. But yeah, in my opinion, Mendoza gives them the best chance to win, and what we've been hearing is that he will be healthy going into this game Saturday. And I think as a freshman, he's a very good quarterback. I mean, they started with Sam Jackson, and he's the most athletic of the 3, and then Ben Finley came in as the backup. But then when you watch all 3 of the guys together, I feel like Mendoza, even though he's a freshman, is a very good player and gives them the best chance to win.
With Mendoza, does this offense change at all? What have you seen from Cal?
No, they're going to stick to their DNA, right? They're a spread offense that likes to have a very balanced attack. They will go up-tempo a little bit. Mendoza is more of a pocket passer, in my opinion. Very strong arm, makes great decisions with the football as a freshman. Did have a turnover against Utah, but that was off the tip football. He will give you chances to make a play on the ball, and that's because he trusts the strong arm that he has. But overall, I think he is the better of the 3 quarterbacks, and he's not afraid to sit in the pocket, go through progression, and take a hit and make the throw that needs to be made, right? He threw a great throw to Jaden Ott down the sideline out of the backfield, got absolutely destroyed by Utah's defender, and he knew he was going to get hit, stayed in there strong, and threw a great ball. But overall, this Cal offense doesn't want to have to rely on their quarterbacks no matter who's in there, right? They want to lean on Jaden Ott. They want to lean on Afonso and allow them to be dominant on the ground game and then use some of that play action and get those up tempos. What I will say, though, in the passing game, be ready for stack formations, right? They're going to widen out 2x2 and go stack, and then they'll go bunch formations and 3x1. And with the bunch, they do a great job, and it confused Utah a little bit of crossing guys up. They'll go cross seam routes. They'll go cross with an over route. So we have to be great in communication this week when they do throw the football and get in those funky type of formations.
So if you're USC, how do you defend that?
Yeah, I mean, my main focus this week is defending the run, right? Just gave up 250 yards on the ground to Utah last week. Obviously, Cal's going to be looking at that and knowing, hey, we're going to come in and establish the ground game. We're going to use Ott on the ground. We're going to use Afonso on the ground. Be ready for Afonso in short yardage situations like I mentioned, right? 7 touchdowns on the year. We have to be ready to have a dominant physical front 7 this game, right? I just went over. I'm sorry, I'm getting pumped again, but
I was like, are you mad at me?
No. Stopping the run game, right? Being physical in run defense. This is a huge week to prove that. And also, last week, Sione Vaki hurt us out of the backfield. We have to be tuned in to Jaden Ott. although he's one of the better running backs in the Pac-12, he's also one of the better pass-catching running backs out of the backfield. And it won't just be wheel routes. They'll send him out on full routes. He can give him option routes out of the backfield, and Mendoza does a great job of finding him as an outlet, and when he's dangerous with the ball in his hand when you get it to him in space.
Any other final thoughts before we move on to Cal's defense?
No, I mean, just have to get back on track for our defense. Improve off of things that we struggled last week against Utah, get back to what we were doing well against Notre Dame. And I know these offenses that we're facing are a little bit different than what we saw in Notre Dame. But just for me, we're capable of being good. We're capable of being a dominant defense. We just have to go out and do it. The last thing I'll say is just be ready for those quick tosses to Ott. They like to get him on the edge, like to get him out in space, like I just mentioned. So we have to be in tune with not only the front seven, but safeties coming down, Zion, Bryson Shaw, Kalen Bullock coming down and being physical in the run game as well.
Now over to the other side of the ball, what are Peter Sirmon and Justin Wilcox cooking up on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, we'll start with their total points allowed, which is 31 points per game, 107th in college football. Total yards allowed, 391, which is 86th in college football. Total passing yards allowed is 246, which is 97th. And then total rushing yards allowed is 145, which is 68th in college football. They have been decent on third down, though. Not as good as Utah, but only allowing their opponents to 38%. And then on fourth down, they're right at the halfway mark, allowing 52% conversion rate on fourth down.
Now over to their key players. Who are the red dots that you're circling, highlighting?
Yeah, I've only got two this week. Two very good players. The first one is linebacker Caleb Alarms Orr, 6'2", 230-pound sophomore, 60 tackles, which leads the team, has 5 pass defense, 1 interception, and 1 forced fumble. Another familiar name and someone I'm used to seeing, especially when he was a younger high school player running around the field, is linebacker Jack Sirmon, which is Peter Sirmon's son. 47 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass defense, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Now, my second red dot guy is safety Patrick McMorris, 6 foot, 210-pound senior, 41 tackles, 4 pass defense, 1 forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. Very good safety player, and he's also a very good box player. They love bringing him down, putting him at the end of the line of scrimmage, allowing him. They do have a secondary pressure look where they'll bring both safeties on a blitz. They did it against Utah on a third down and short situation, but we have to key on Patrick McMorris this week and know where he's at all times on the field. And a couple other of their standout players to keep an eye on, safety Craig Woodson, linebacker Xavier Colleton. Their best cover corner, in my opinion, is cornerback Noel Williams. And then their other D lineman that makes a good impact on this defense is Ricky Correa.
Now, when it comes to studying this defense, was there like a flashback moment for you at all?
Yeah, there really was. I remember as soon as I put on the tape, Cal and Utah, and I watched the game for obviously doing Utah prep the week before, but as soon as I put on the tape, immediately thought back to 2014, 2015,
practice
going
vibes?
Against Wilcox's defense in practice. But overall, what they are, and a lot of USC fans will probably remember this, they're a 3-4 defense. They love to stack the box. They love to load the box. They will get in a 4-down type of look, if you will. You can call it that, but it's more of a 2-down look where they have their 2 interior defensive linemen with their hand in the ground, and then every single time, 100%, they will stand up their edge players, whether it's 3-down interior linemen or 2-down interior linemen. They are going to stand up their edge defenders. They love bringing safeties down in the box. They love to stack the box and be physical and stopping the run game. Overall, do a great job of mixing up man and zone. I would expect probably a little bit more man this week against USC's wide receivers. We've obviously been seeing that. That's been the common theme the last couple of weeks, is playing man-to-man against our receivers and seeing if we can get open and seeing if our offensive line can do a good job of protecting. Now, the positive side of this week for USC's offensive line, not a great pass rush from Cal. Only 7 sacks on the entire year.
Wow, okay.
And some teams are already in the 20-30s up in that area, so not a great pass rush. They are very disciplined. They do a good job of staying in their lanes in the run game, being disciplined in the pass game. Again, they're not going to do a great job of getting after the quarterback, but I think a big part of that is they love to use slants. They love to use different stunts, twists up front on the defensive side of the ball. So we do have to do a great job of communication, knowing what front we're seeing and what they're going to do post-snap as well. But overall, this is a game for USC to take advantage of a defense that Cal that's struggling a little bit and let us get back on track.
I mean, I feel like that tells me what I need to know, Cody, but any final thoughts before we go into the keys?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very vanilla defense, right? It's a 3-4 defense. What you see is what you get. Be ready for secondary pressure. Be ready. They love to bring single linebacker pressure, and like I said, they'll slant away from that pressure. But a big thing this week, and it's something that I talked about or touched on going back to our offense against Utah, is be ready for Caleb to run the football. They struggled to contain the quarterback in the pocket. Again, they don't have a great rush, and they allow the quarterback, Barnes, when I watched the Utah tape, did a great job of breaking contain and picking up some big plays on the ground, especially on those third down situations. So this can be a huge game for Caleb. Let's not hold on to the football too long. Let's go first progression, second progression, third. If it's not there, go quickly through your progression, take off and run. We don't need to backpedal, backtrack, run around. Take off and run and pick up a couple yards and get down. But overall, like I mentioned, this Cal defense is very vanilla, nothing crazy. They're not going to throw some funky, crazy looks at you. You just have to be able to communicate what the front is, whether it's a 3-down or that 2-down look that I just talked about, and be ready for single linebacker pressure and occasionally some secondary pressure, and be ready to beat man-to-man this week and get after them. And hopefully we can get everything back on track on the offensive side of the ball. 2 weeks, 3 weeks now we've been off, but I'm going to go out on record and say I have full faith that this offense is going to come out and dominate and be that explosive USC offense that we're used to seeing under Lincoln Riley.
Alrighty, well, let's get into the USC Pharmacy prescription to win. The keys to the game for USC against Cal. First one, Cody, start fast on offense and regain confidence.
Yeah, it's time for this offense to get back on track and be explosive like we're used to seeing, right? We saw flashes of it against Utah last week, but we just need to be more consistent. I want to see a 500-yard, 50-point performance this week against Cal like I know we're capable of, and get back on track and gain that identity back on the offensive side of the ball.
Now, the second key to the game, USC's defense needs to be dominant when it comes to defending the run.
Yeah, we have to be better in the run game this week. Gave up over 250 yards on the ground last week to Utah. Ott and Afonso are both very good running backs for Cal, and Cal is averaging over 195 yards per game on the ground. I'm ready this week to see a dominant, physical, downhill run defense that can get after this Cal offensive line and slow down those two backs.
Now, the third and final key to the game for USC, block out the noise and take care of business.
Yeah, there's a lot of storylines that go around when you're coming off of back-to-back losses, but the best way to block all that out and to turn things around is to go out and win. And USC has a great opportunity to get back on track this week with a dominant victory against Cal and get ready for these last 3 difficult games of the season.
Alrighty, Cody, we got to dive into questions. Before we do, just want to give a thanks to Audi. What if there was a portal to the future? Enter the fully electric Audi Q4 e-tron with an advanced touchscreen infotainment system. Audi, the future awaits. And take your health to the next level with Symbiotica. Their premium, easy-to-take supplements fuel your body with key vitamins and minerals to help you reach peak performance on and off the field. Elevate your health today by going to Symbiotica.com and use code FIGHTON for 15% off site-wide.
Fight on. And minerals.
I did it. Did I do
Crushed it? That was great.
Okay.
That was great. All right, hit me. I'm ready for the questions.
First one
Let's
is from USC Chino, who says, why do you think it's so hard for Caleb to take this check down?
Yeah, I mean, it's going back to the point that we talked about is just when all 11 do their job, right? You see an offense that's in motion, that looks confident, that's dominant, but sometimes when things aren't clicking on all cylinders, you can feel that pressure as a quarterback to try to put all the weight on your shoulders, right? And there are times that he is Superman, that he has to do that he has to go out and make those Heisman type of plays. But sometimes I feel like he might be putting too much pressure on himself instead of just being okay with a 3 or 4 yard check down or taking off, picking up a couple yards and getting down and keeping those negative plays off the board and keeping that momentum going on offense.
We had many questions, including from Trojan Mom 06, about Utah's defensive substitution, where they run the clock down.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that, Cody?
Yeah, okay, so just explaining that real quick. So when an offense substitutes, it allows a defense to substitute as well, right? That's why you see the refs coming up.
Yeah.
When we substitute personnel groupings or even just one receiver for another, the ref will come up, stand over the football and hold, stop the quarterback. Well, Utah has found a little,
like they're in trouble.
Well, I mean, they found a little loophole. Credit to them.
Dion was like, as a defender, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to slow down an explosive offense, a fast-paced offense. This is how you do it. What a great. Now, I don't know if a rule is going to come out to fix this, but it's a genius idea from Whittingham and this defensive staff. Is what they were doing was USC would rotate, and then then the referee would walk up and stop the play, and then Utah would look over and go, okay, their biggest, slowest, and they would tell them, for a fact, there's no way they run that slow. Defensive tackle, they'd say, okay, switch, and he would slow motion jog out there. A little brisk, at the park. Not really trying to get the heart rate up. Jog out there, come over, not even point saying, hey, we're switching, normally what you do, and you have guys run off while one's running on. You go over there, tap them on the shoulder, hey, man, you're out. Slow motion.
You're saying it in slow motion?
Yeah, the guy would turn like, all right, and then he would slow jog off the field. Now, is it frustrating from an offensive standpoint where, hey, we want to go, and we had to waste a timeout there?
Yeah.
I think in the third or fourth, the third quarter, later on in the game, a crucial timeout and a crucial third down situation
100%.
that we had to burn a timeout because, I mean, credit to Utah. They're taking advantage of the rule of doing what I just explained, and we had to burn a timeout, and I'm getting flustered. It's frustrating, but
okay,
hey,
Cody.
they did a good job of it. Like I said, credit to Whittingham. You're taking advantage of the rules, and that's one way you can gain an advantage. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they change that in the future to say, hey, you have a certain amount of time to substitute, like 5 seconds. The ref's only going to stand up for 5 seconds, then you have a chance to go, or you're going to get 12 men on the field. But
they rate your jogging
I
effort.
mean, or they're going to keep doing it, and that's just how you can slow down an offense, playing within the rules and finding loopholes.
I guess. Caleb, not Williams, asked the question, does Caleb Williams, does his pinky being wrapped affect his accuracy? And before you answer, Cody, Riley was asked about it last Thursday, and the paraphrased answer that Riley gave was that it's an annoyance, but it's not a hindrance.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the head ball coach knows best about injuries, and he's gonna have a better answer than anyone can. But I mean, it does raise the question with his accuracy being off. Has that played a factor in that? And then we saw obviously the ball slipping out of his hands on that crucial third down in the red zone. Has that also played a factor in it? Does he not have as good as grip on the football? And you know, anything that happens to your throwing hand, whether it's thumb, pinky, any finger, any wrist, anything that's on your throwing hand as a quarterback, in my opinion, absolutely will affect the way you throw the football or the way you hold the football. So, I mean, if Coach Riley's saying it's not, then it's not. But in my opinion, I would, maybe allude to some of the accuracy issues and having some of those fumbles having a factor being with his pinky being injured.
Loaf's headquarters said, how much do you think the constant rotation earlier in the season is an effort to build depth, but may have unknowingly undermined our offense and defense's ability to build a quote-unquote first-team chemistry and cohesion?
Yeah, Lopes, I love that question. I think there's two parts to that, and he brings up good points on both sides. Is yes, it's great to get some of these younger guys involved and figure out who can play well and what they can do, but you're also losing reps and consistency and continuity with the starting unit when it comes to crunch time. So I think I would go with the more latter of that. I would have liked to seen a more solidified starting unit maybe earlier in the season. Now I know obviously it's as a coach you want to evaluate everything before you get into those difficult games. But one of the issues that you could talk about is the offensive line rotated a ton, right? Noah, obviously Gino Quinones is out with an injury, but Gino rotated a lot. Pregnon, Kingston, Tarquin, Murphy, all these different guys rotated, and we're still trying to figure out what that unit's going to be, and we're going into week 8 or week 9 already in the season. So that could that have played a factor? In my opinion, I think so. Just not being able to find that consistency, especially at important position groups like the offensive line. So yeah, I would like to seen a little bit more continuity earlier in the season, but at the same time, you do learn a lot about guys when you get them, or when you get to play them in game type situations.
Yeah. Brett said, is tackling something you can learn to do? Is it terrifying, or is it just part of your personality?
I think it's a combination of both. I never really had to tackle, and if I had to tackle,
please, Cody, tell us about
if I had to tackle, that means I threw an interception, so that's not good. I did tackle in high school. I played a little bit of safety and corner.
Okay.
My sophomore year before. Yeah, I've told you this story before. I know you don't listen to all my stories.
Oh, please.
I got Hit Man of the Week, which they gave out on our local hometown sports broadcast.
Okay.
Got a T-shirt to prove it if anyone wants to question me on that.
Didn't you say you were going to bring it in?
Yeah, I don't know.
We won't believe you.
I think it's in Bakersfield, actually. I did say that.
Convenient.
So you did just call me on my bluff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's packed away in my memorabilia stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think and obviously Dion would be better to ask this question, but I think it's a mindset, right? You got to have that physicality to know I want to be. That's why I went on that rant earlier in the game. Is I know that Cobb and Curtis and Gentry and Shane Lee can do that. We just have to show that, right? And one thing I go back to is Curtis kind of getting blown off the ball a little bit in the run game. I've seen him blow through a pulling guard or someone coming up and being explosive and coming downhill and being physical. And heck, the targeting call against Nevada, right? You want to protect other players, but he has that mentality in him. You got to be smart. You got to protect other players, but he has that in him. He wants to be a physical player, just playing a little bit, slower and not learning the game and still being a freshman. But overall, I think it's a mindset, and you've got to be able to go out there and know I'm going to dominate, play in and play out, and you're going to be worried about me. I'm going to be a red dot guy on the defensive side of the ball because of how physical I'm playing.
Kind of related to part of your answer, Pete said, what do you see from this team, or what do you see from this team that gives you hope for better outcomes against UW, Oregon, and that team in Pasadena? And I will jump in for a question or an answer here. And we haven't mentioned this. I did against in the Dion pod. This team's fight is pretty. You can't count them out in that regard.
Look, we should have won that game last week. I'll say it, right? We had plenty of opportunities. We had a point there at the end of the game where we should have won that football game. We should be sitting at 7-1 right now, right? Things happen, and we didn't make that last stop at the end of the game. We had a penalty that kind of hurt that last drive. But overall, whether it's a game that we're supposed to blow the team out or be one-way or one-sided, or it's a tough opponent, this team has played very well throughout the year. Now, the Notre Dame game is the outlier for me, right? We struggled in that football game, and you could say Arizona, we should have played better. Colorado, we should have put it away sooner. But either way, this team still finds a way to keep themselves in the football game and finds ways to win the football game, right? Like I said, we should have won that game last week. It came down to one play there at the end of the game, or else we're 7-1 right now, feeling pretty good in the Pac-12. Again, outside of the Notre Dame game. But, yeah, I think there's just little things, and that's why it's so frustrating. Like, it's very tiny things here and there.
That game on the rewatch was so hard for me to watch.
A play here and there that completely factors into the outcome of the game. But overall, I still think we're a little bit of a ways away to being a national contender. Got to get better in some areas. Got to continue to develop these younger players and improve, which we can and we will. But overall, I mean, I love the fight and resilience that this football team has, and that's where it starts out with culture and what type of product you're going to put on the field on Saturdays.
Jonathan said, Cody, when fans are upset, how does the team stay focused amid the noise? Which kind of alludes to our third point there.
For me, block them. Block them on Twitter.
Literally block them, Jonathan.
Yeah, you be straightforward, just block them on Twitter. But no, Jonathan, it's you have to block that out, right? Not literally, you don't have to block them, but you just stay off of social media, stay off of the news or whatever. I know people don't read the newspaper anymore, but like the storylines you see, or online you see these punchlines. SC's terrible, or this team can't do it. Yeah, or this team's. But you can't look into that. You can't read into that, or else it's going to sit inside your head, and you're going to see that. And even if it's a couple words, you're going to be sitting in bed at night like, we've just lost back-to-back games, and oh, by the way, everyone thinks I stink now. Like it's tough to overcome that. So my biggest advice is stay off online. Stay offline.
Stay offline.
Don't get on Twitter. Don't get on Instagram. All that stuff, and just focus on film, going to class, and practice, and let the rest take care of itself.
Avery said, any insight into how Pete's teams practice differently to get that physical? Why can't we do it?
I'm assuming Pete, he means Pete Carroll.
Yes, he or she.
I don't know. I would love, that's a great question. I would love to comment on that. I was never a part of a Pete Carroll practice, and obviously you were not here either.
No,
but
I was a little baby.
Just from and I got here towards the tail end of the players that were on Pete Carroll football teams. They were very physical practices, right? We would get after it. Now, injuries will happen though if you're tackling year round, and you have to be able to avoid that. You have to be careful, but they're very physical practices, and that's something that I don't know how you incorporate that. Again, they pay Lincoln Riley those big bucks to make those decisions, and all head coaches around the country. I mean, maybe you have a day a week where you are going live, or a couple periods where you do go live throughout the season, but it's just you're going to be kicking yourself at night if you go live and two of your starting offensive linemen get hurt and your starting inside linebacker gets a stinger, he's out for the week. Like, that's just where it's tough to find a balance in that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we do have to add a little bit more of physicality throughout the week in practice.
We got a question from SoCal Manny, who said, I'm headed up to Berkeley for the first time. Any recommendations for food/places to go?
I'm out on that one.
We're the worst people to ask.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry.
If anybody's listening to this that is down in the Berkeley area or have been to some of the games.
Up?
Yeah. Up.
Or down?
I know. Up. You always give me a hard time. I always say down.
It's the Bakersfield in
It's just, I always say down to LA when I've lived in Bakersfield. But yeah, anybody that's been up to Berkeley or to these games, if you got great food recommendations,
the Victory Pod Exchange.
Let us know in the comments. Yeah.
Help SoCal Manny out.
Yeah, because I don't. Do you have any?
Because we can't.
Yeah.
No. And like that's the thing is, even when I've gone, I think I went to like an In-N-Out, which is like not
quick because we're working the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm in the hotel, so hotel food. I could tell you some about some of the hotel food.
Yeah, sure.
Up there, I almost said down there. But anyways, let us know, man. If you find a good place, let us know.
Yeah. Jake said, Cody, if you had to play defense, what position would you play?
Safety.
He said rush in. Lol.
the Russian.
Yeah.
Maybe back when I was 230, back my sophomore year of college.
That's true because you're like, you can see it.
Well, I played safety as well up until like my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
Like we just mentioned. But yeah, no, I would definitely would have loved to play safety. Sometimes obviously the quarterback worked out, but kind of kicked myself for not playing safety. I loved it. I love playing defense.
You don't seem like a defensive guy to me. Maybe that's because I know you as a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of always been my identity is Cody the quarterback. But yeah, I would have loved to play some safety. I think I would have been a pretty good one. I was pretty good when I was playing freshman year of high school and then obviously in Pee Wee. But again, everyone kind of is in Pee Wee.
I was about to say, you really demolished
We can check tape if you want to check tape.
5-year-olds, yeah.
We can go check tape on how to tackle.
Off-season project.
Yeah, there you go.
Break down 5-year-old Cody tape.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jake said, Cody, favorite golf course you play in OC, and what's your handicap?
Yeah, my favorite would be Oak Creek Country Club. That's the place that I always go to. That's my home course. But handicap right now, TBD. I don't know. I've only hit the ball. I've only gone and hit.
This man is in season mode.
Yeah, I really have only hit twice, probably in the last 3 or 4 months, and that's not even playing. I haven't played since off season.
Now, when it comes to off season, I'm going to have to be begging him to do a podcast because he'll be living on the golf course.
Yeah, no kidding. But I'm down in the single digits. I think the last time I played, I shot a 77, 78 around there. Personal best is a 73. So when I play a lot, I get pretty competitive. And
you competitive?
Yeah.
What? I'm so shocked.
We can check tape on the golf swing too if you don't believe me on that one.
Please do.
But yeah,
Please do.
Handicap though, I couldn't tell you right now.
The final question comes from Rachel, who I believe is my best friend who realized that you can ask questions.
Okay.
She said if Keely could interview any non-sports person, who would it be? And she knows this answer. And I feel like everyone who listens knows this answer. Beyonce, boom, done. Cody, it's time to announce the emoji winner. She didn't ask you. She asked for me. Just kidding. Who would be yours, Cody? Who would be yours?
I'm done.
No. Who would be yours?
I don't have one. But I'm going to go back just to cover myself because I know how, and you wouldn't know this, but I know how crucial golf comments are about, this guy, whatever. Ask Sua. I have someone who will tell you how it is. Going back to that comment, if someone's like, you shot a 73 or 77. I shot, I think, a 76 in front of Sua. Legit. So you can go ask Sua, too, as well.
Okay. You anticipated the haters already?
Well, you've got to. It's crazy. You don't believe me? Go look at people who post.
Trust me.
Like, go look at some golf influencers.
I'm on the internet, I know.
Who post their golf swing and say, I hit this 305. 90 comments saying, yeah, right. Not with that swing. Swing's terrible. It's crazy.
I wish there was like a filtering
just for
service.
Validation, go ask Sua if you don't believe me, because Sua will tell you how it is.
No, and then you know what Sua's response is going to be? Invite me on the victory pod.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, and then he'll make fun of my knee brace.
Yeah, it's
like
perfect.
he did on the Trojan tailgate.
Makes sense.
Okay, emojis.
I'm ready. As a reminder, it's just one person.
Yeah, we're back to one
forward.
For the rest of the season. Still doing a giveaway, though.
Yes.
So I am, hold on, you sent me the list earlier.
I have random.org pulled up.
I'm ready.
21. Any Vine people out there?
Is don't say it. I was tempted to. 21 is Matt Jose.
Woo.
His username is Jose31 Matt. And obviously he follows us. Yeah, so Jose31 Matt is username, and then Matt Jose, congratulations. You are this week's giveaway winner.
I don't know if this matters, but it was out of 62. I don't think I said that.
No, I don't think we did either. But yeah, no, out of 62, we're right around that 60 number every time, even for tickets or for the emoji or just for the apparel. So that's awesome. But again, sorry to everyone who did not win. Now we're back to picking one, so it hurts me a little bit more than it was when we got to pick two. But again,
what a wonderful way to segue into another emoji entry.
Yeah, it is. And Matt, your options are going to be for first-time listeners, USC hat, USC short sleeve shirt, USC long sleeve shirt, or USC sweatshirt. And then I can sign it, Keely can sign it, or we both can sign it.
Unsigned.
Or unsigned, no pressure.
Unsigned. I don't think that's a word, but yes.
Whatever.
I love it.
And this is a long episode. But with that being said, now we're ready to pick our emojis.
Okay, I'm going to do a butterfly.
Okay. I'm going to do, back to sports, I'm going to do a yo-yo.
Oh.
I guess it's in the sports
really
section.
Excited about that.
I don't know. I literally scrolled to the sports, and it's the first one I saw for whatever reason.
Okay.
So it is a green yo-yo. I'm going with the yo-yo.
Butterfly and a yo-yo.
Butterfly and a yo-yo.
You know what to do.
Yeah. And if you, first-time listener, if you don't know what to do.
I mean, come on. It's week 9.
So you should, we're still getting new listeners.
Yes, that's true.
So let me explain it. If you want to enter your name into the emoji giveaway, if you follow or if you respond on Twitter with a butterfly and a yo-yo, you have to be following myself, Keely, and the Victory Pod on Twitter. If you respond on Instagram, whether direct message, or you can reply on a picture, whatever you want to do. You have to be following myself, Keely, and the Victory Pod on Instagram. So basically, whatever platform you're following on or you reply on, you have to be following all three. And then your name goes into random.org, and then we pick a winner from there, and you can win apparel.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right.
Why do I always do that
I
coming
don't know.
out of
You do it every time. But with that being
every
said,
time. It's time for the Cody 2-minute drill, and it has to be 2-minute drill because, as we previewed, it's practice time right now, and I need to go. Yes,
it is. Here we go. I'm going to roll through these. If it's already been answered, I don't have time. Normally, I pick out ones we've been doing lately. I'm just going to ask them all, and if it's already been answered, I'm going to say, already answered it. Okay, first one, That Daddy Manny. What's your best memory playing against Cal? Would have to say the Thursday night game at home. I'm undefeated against Cal, though, so a little humble brag there. But Thursday night game against Cal in the Coliseum was awesome.
Okay.
Pre-game was with Adam Sandler was in the locker room.
Oh, what?
It was awesome. That game was awesome, head-to-head with Jared Goff. So it was fun. We went back and forth. Got it early. That was the game that Nelson had like 15 catches for like 240 or something.
Oh, wow.
And 2 touchdowns. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Next one is from 24 Alex VSG 87. Any hope they can still get into the playoff picture? It is a long stretch, but if I'm being completely honest, I'm going to say no on that one. It's tough to get in there with 2 losses. I don't think a 2-loss team has ever gotten into the playoff. The next one is from J. Mitch Trains. How come we don't have a special teams coach? The reason behind that is it's kind of a by committee, right? Coach Riley assigns different coaches to parts on the special teams. That's been a conversation before. Should we get one? Should we not? But obviously, that is Coach Riley's way of doing it. The next one is from Kyle Rinstrom. Cody, you swapped coaching duties this week with Lincoln. What do you do to get the W against Cal? I mean,
you answered that.
Yeah, I already answered that earlier in the segment, right?
Stick to your word.
Yeah, okay. Stick to the run game.
No.
Be explosive on offense. All right, I already answered that one. Great question, Kyle. The next one is from Kevbo55 with LR and Cliff. Why did the O take a step back? O-line play, Caleb trying to do too much. Kev, I think it's a combination of a lot of those things, and I think it's just, like Lincoln said, not all 11 playing together and not playing together at the right times, right? There's times that the O-line's doing a great job of protection. Caleb's maybe not seeing the field as well, or guys aren't getting open, and then vice versa. O-line's struggling in protection, and we have guys open down the field. We just got to get back to playing better as a unit and keep running the football, in my opinion. Next one from John Holt, 2323. Your mom is my PE teacher. Okay, awesome. Shout out the new Alyssa Bubbles, I guess.
I was about to say, wow.
Yeah, the next one is from Reg Bindenheim. Why are Bear and Bars seemingly never on the field together? You know what? I did see that last week where there were consistently where Bear was out there and Keon was not out there. Or it was very few and far in between where it seemed like they were on the field at the same time. I'd have to go back and look at that exact number, but I'm with you, Bindenheim. I think it'd be dominant to have both of them out there at the same time. The next one is from Steve Chavez, 18. What does LR say to this team to keep them motivated? Block out all the noise, right? One of our keys to the game. Block out all the noise, stay focused, control what we can control, and go back to playing dominant football this week. The next one is from Ave. Bro, what needs to happen to start winning recruiting battles in the trenches? You want me to be transparent? NIL. You can have great recruiters. You can have great record. You can win football games, right? There's a ton of hype around USC football this offseason, and it felt like we lost some of these close recruiting battles that we maybe should have won. Now, we're still getting 5-star players, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, money. It's NIL. You have to have a strong NIL program, and that's what players want to do, right? They're not looking as much at where can I go be successful for the next 4 years. It's where can I make NIL money this year, and then if I transfer, can I get more somewhere else? Or it is a crazy time in college football, but just being honest with you, bro, I think it's NIL is the biggest factor right now in recruiting. The next one is from Joe Osorio. Didn't get there early enough to say hi. We'll be earlier next time. Sounds good. Next one's from IGCWD. Relatable. Please describe your emotions during Utah's final drive. It pains me so much. I'll tell you this much. It was tough to watch live in person, but it was even tougher knowing the outcome and watching the film back like I did for the prep. But yeah, just I was on the edge of my seat. We were actually standing up. My brother and his girlfriend, we were all up in the club section standing up watching the game, and just it was a lot of emotions going.
You can see me on
in a short period of time.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. But
no,
you
can
see me on the sideline with my notebook. I'm trying to grab something, but like I was like covering my face because I couldn't just handle.
I'm with you. I was like
stress.
grabbing my brother's his shoulder the whole time, like squeezing his polo. Yeah. Just like, come on, man, one stop, please. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of Trojan fans can relate to that. The next one is from Ray Zero Mark. Can the Trojans still win the Pac-12? Yes, we can, but we do need some things to happen now. We don't control our own destiny. We have to have a couple teams lose, and then we obviously have to win out. What we can't control is winning out, right? Beating Cal, Oregon, Washington, and UCLA to give ourselves the best chance, but we do need some help elsewhere. But yeah, we absolutely still can win the Pac-12. The next one is from Stevie Girl 19. Can we get back on track, or is it too late? No, I absolutely think we can get back on track. I know it's tough going back-to-back games, having those losses, obviously, against your rival Notre Dame and then a Utah team that beat us twice last year. Very frustrating losses, but I absolutely think we can get back on track, and we have the players and coaches to do that. The next one is from Jake Spieth. In and out equals GOAT. I'm with that.
Yeah.
Compared with what, though?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Burger
we
places?
need more context,
Yeah, more
Jake.
context, Jake.
Please.
Give us more context next week. And then the last one I have is from Josh Harden 1. When will we give Marshawn Lloyd 20-plus carries in a game? Hopefully this week, right? That was something that I talked about earlier, talking about the Utah game, is we've got to continue to run the football. Would love, just imagine, averaging 12 yards a carry against Utah. Imagine if we did give him 20 carries that game. And I know the fumble happened, and we've talked about that, but short answer to that, would love to see him get 20-plus touches this game, or however many we need to win the football game and to keep a consistent run game for all 4 quarters, I guess, is the best way to answer that. But with that being said, I am done. I am out. Keely has to go to practice in like 5 minutes.
No, right now.
Like right now. Okay, love you guys. Hey, don't lose the faith. We're still fighting on. We're gonna come out this week against Cal. Show your support, right? Don't give up on this football team. And you know, we've seen times where the highs and lows, there's always going to be highs and lows in the season, but we just have to stay with them. And you know, it's been so much fun being around USC football. I still have full faith in this football team, and I'm ready for us to go up to Berkeley this weekend and get a win against the Golden Bears. Fight on. Love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Great job. Directionally challenged. Cody,
I know. Up.
That's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Cody, appreciate your wisdom as always. That's going to wrap it up. That's Cody. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.